I had a couple thoughts on the topic of, because I feel like I've been talking about how the black red pill stuff sort of taking over the internet.
Yeah.
And a lot of those clips go viral and stuff. And it kind of had some thoughts of,
Samuels.
well, I had a thing where I thought he was a little off too. And I was just sort of like honing my thoughts on this. But one of the things with this that I was thinking on the plane is that, you know how like girls will do things like tell other girls like be slutty and no one should care and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And obviously like there is some guys who don't care and whatever. There's like a spectrum like anything else, right?
Yeah.
But the truth is the telling girls to like put on weight and like be, you know, just be like gross and put on weight
and like be like,
you know, make yourself not a prize.
and-
Like make yourself not sought after at all, essentially, right? Like
Yeah.
everything that guys
Like it shouldn't matter, essentially.
it shouldn't matter. You know what? The reason why girls fall for that a little bit is because it's sort of the same phenomenon as when guys like get really fat and then like take their shirt off and like become the drunk party animal.
Yeah.
Like everyone loves them except for girls. It's
Right.
sort of like that. It's like in the woman. So for girls you're really like pretending you're doing it for girls validation. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'll do
They are. They're like, what does it matter what a man thinks? That's the whole point, right?
Exactly.
They go like, what does it matter? Like a man doesn't get to have an opinion about
But
my
isn't
body.
that very similar than like to like the fat party animal dude that actually doesn't get chicks?
Kinda.
You know what I mean? And those guys, there always is a little bit as they get older, like, I would want a chick though.
Of course. I mean, these women, I guess,
Like,
the
it's
difference is they can get somebody.
They'll
get somebody just
smashed.
Yeah, they'll get somebody just not great. But
And then one of the reasons why girl advice is so bad for guys and vice versa, because it kind of, whenever I, like a lot of times when I'm telling people things with like women, I feel like it doesn't resonate with them that well. And one of the reasons is there's too many premises that have to be like accepted first, if that makes sense. And like, so if you're telling, it kind of reminded me of this. Like, here's a good example. I feel like I figured out a way to like say this clearly. You know, if you have a parent, and I feel like my parents a little bit like, when even doing comedy and stuff like that,
yeah,
it's not like my parents were pushy, but they were to the point. They do look at this as like something that you don't actually do for real.
Course,
like
of
it was
course.
obviously you do it at first, but that never like affected me like crazy.
Yeah.
But if ever I have a problem in the industry, like it's maybe a little bit less now, but like even like, you know, growing up, if I had a problem, like let's say like, oh, like I'm doing this TV thing and I do this, it was like all the problems would kind of be like the overarching, well, like entertainment's very hard. Like you'd almost have to explain, you'd have to, every time before ever like talking about the thing, you need to justify the whole existence first.
Of course, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas like with girls, there's so many things that they don't like agree with the premises that it almost reminds me of, and I thought this is the best way to look at girl advice to a guy, is a human is like a software, right?
Yeah.
And the right advice at the right time kind of comes at you like a plug-in for your software.
Right, like a Chrome extension.
But it has to be compatible with the software.
Interesting.
So if you have like a software that's like running your life a certain way, and then like let's say your computer program is really good at this, and then they have software that's like, you know, good for like this emotional computer that kind of like thinks a certain way.
And then some of it's a virus.
Some of it you put it
Like
in yours, it's like a virus.
It's like a virus, yeah.
It operates like a
virus.
virus.
Like a woman gives you bad advice to a dude, she just installed a virus on you.
100%, yeah. Because, yeah, so I think that the times that I'll give the ones to a woman is that, like, they can't just optimize for one thing at once. I feel like they're bad at, like, thinking about that. So a lot of times I'll forget that I have to give them advice where it's like, okay, it's not an option to just, like, not have this much, like, family time and not have this much. So it's like, my advice is always like change the whole thing because like I'm just like this doesn't make sense how you're operating.
Yeah.
My advice
You're trying
is
to
always,
install a virus.
I'm trying to like change their operating system usually, right? And that's not going to happen.
No.
With the guys, they can modify their operating system, but I think that that's a good way to look at it. When you're looking at someone giving you advice, understand if it's like compatible with like your personality's operating system.
Oh, for sure.
It's such a good way to decide.
Also, always get a second opinion if it's anything of any sort of.
But like one thing they always say is like being great at like involves taking advice, but also involves like understanding what advice will
Not
actually,
to take,
sure. Which one will be
for
compatible.
Sure.
But if you think of yourself like a software with, and you're putting plugins in, I think that's like a good way of looking at it.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. And then that led me to my last point because I don't want to go on this forever, but it led me to my last point, which was the Kevin Samuels and a lot of people like that do say something that I've said a version of, which they always say with women. Don't tell them your problems. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I've kind of said some version of that. Like, there's almost no point. And their thing is like with hypergamy and stuff like that, which means girls date up. Whenever you tell a girl your problems, it's just making them.
It makes you worse in their eyes.
It makes you worse in their
For
eyes,
sure.
and they'll eventually like lose respect and live. But it's like, I think that's not totally correct, because I think what the truth is if you think of yourself like a company and think about you being an employee in a company or an investor in a company or anything like that, right? Okay. If the stock's going up and the company looks like it's going up and growth is happening, they're making more money this year than they were last year, but there are problems like, you know what? We need more employees. We're having trouble with this thing. Like, like we're too overworked. We need more staff. Like, you're allowed to have problems. They just can't be stock is dropping problems.
Yeah, they can't be like fatalistic problems. Like, you don't want to be like, hey,
Exactly.
we're bankrupt. And she's like, okay, well, I'm going.
So the problem, you can
You
tell
have
girls all your
minor
problems.
which is what they want. They think, because they're like, oh, I want you to be open and tell me all your problems. You're like, no, you don't. You just want these like kind of small ones. You don't want
Yeah.
this. You don't want the really serious ones. They want like emotional stuff.
But
and-
sometimes there is a benefit to telling a girl a bunch of problems just to get her off your back.
Of course.
You know what I mean? Just be like, I'm so stressed out with this thing. And like,
I
got
go,
all
this
stuff."
Peter Shickley dude is ruining my fucking life.
So right?
Dude, that's the best one actually. You'd say that. And she goes, yeah, I don't care about this. This counts as a problem. Thank you. But also, I don't care. Guilty.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah. She goes, you just got to give the softball problems. Like it's kind of like a.
They can.
You're,
Yeah,
you're
'cause I think they're not
weaponizing.
going to help that much. But I think a lot of times I talk about girls that I'm with about like things
Yeah.
that I'm dealing with or whatever. But like the underlying assumption can't be like, you're fucked.
Of course.
Because then they're like, well, why am I even investing in this ship that's sinking?
And the word, that obviously, and then also the advice they're going to give to help you when they have absolutely like no concept of what's going on with that, and they're gonna be like, oh, what about this? You go, like, no, like you like it's even worse, because then they start giving you this bad advice and it makes you bothered that's
Totally.
like, you're like, I told you, and they go, well, why don't you just like call up Saturday Night Live and ask them to be the star of it? And you're like, that's not how it works though. You go, but just go get Lauren
give
Michaels'
you the
number.
uncle, they give you the
yeah,
uncle
you know,
advice.
like the uncle advice. You go, why don't you just like call up Madison Square Garden and ask if you could do a show there?
Yeah, you'd be better off them just saying you should quit than that.
Yeah, you know, at least that's just like, and I go, yeah, I'm not quitting. You go, okay.
Agree to disagree to some degree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas they're right, because you almost rather none.
It's womansplaining. It's literally just womansplaining.
Yeah, so you don't want that. So what the?
It's like Monty's joke. You're like fixing your car, and then like your mom comes out, and you're like, don't do it like that. And you're like, fuck do you know about fixing a car?
Yeah, no, it was the land that was fixing his house, and he goes, I've been a landlord 4 times.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you've been
No,
a
he had
landlord
one about
0
the car
times."
too.
Oh, he has the same joke.
He had a tough week on obviously with a few of those things going on.
But yeah, I think that's the best way to like describe it, is like, yeah, it's the same reason with your buddies. Like, even I think it's the same with everyone a little bit. Like, once in a while, there's like a fatalistic problem that I think is probably better suited for the buddies than the thing. But really, you're complaining about like some idiot at work or this and
Yeah.
that. Like, you have problems, but they're not like, you're still stable, because no one likes someone that it's like the whole thing's a mess.
No.
Like,
I mean, some
that's-
people do actually.
Well,
but
they might.
that-
Some girls like a fixer-upper that they can own, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, but their lives are generally messes too. It's not like they have everything together and they just want some complete disaster.
And also, you'll lose all the hand in the relationship in return for being that guy.
Yeah, of course.
So that's that's kind of, I think it was a little more nuanced. It's not that you just can't tell your girls a problem. It's just like, you can't ever like sacrifice the fact that you seem like a good ship to be on.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you want to be like
You want the boss to come out, not to say that you're always the boss in the relationship, but like, I'm just saying in the company analogy, let's say even the representative, you want the company representative to come out and be like, like things are going good, but we need this. You don't want the boss to come out and be like, yo, we're fucked.
Yeah, you don't be like the pilot who's like, does anybody know how to fly this thing?
yeah, exactly, right? Because then they're like, I'm getting off this plane and getting on a better one.
Yeah,
So that's probably the full synopsis of that.
that's accurate. That's
Which-
a good theory.
Yeah, not bad theory. I thought my hard drive theory was okay.
Yeah, you should start a Boyscast
Because
theory.
it's not even girl guy, really. It's like in general, sort of like a feel like it's a good theory.
Yeah, you start a Boyscast
Advices
theories,
are a little
theories
thing.
channel.
Yeah, maybe I could do a theories channel, theories and queries.
Just a specific,
me and
just
you could
all
do
the
one.
theories. No, just take all
Mondays
the
is theories and Wednesdays is queries. All right.
If Peter Shickley doesn't kill me first.
That would be crazy if fucking we got a knock on the door. Hello, Daniel.
Hello,
You've
Daniel.
been fucking asking around about me.
I recommend you mind your business.
We definitely talk like that.
He does,
I
totally.
want you to keep my fucking name out of your mouth.
I hope so. I hope he's like actually a piece of shit. He seems nice.
Yeah, you're gonna get a call from the Grammy committee. Like, what's this? What are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing, dude? You know too much. It's
Yeah.
like someone.
This Shigley guy is gonna be the death of you.
He might be.